Hello?
Roger. Hi, Roger. Can you hear us?
Driving.
Hello?
Greetings. We are.
Because this is just a workshop, I don't think you can vote on anything today.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah, there's no regular,
Oh, so we
No
don't need to do
regular.
a quorum?
no regular business. This is just a workshop.
Okay.
Fantastic.
Yeah, you don't, no
Don't have to-
voting, no voting.
to see about going home or
Yeah.
finishing up. Okay. Well, that being said, let's see if we can set a time limit on how long this is gonna be. 5 minutes.
Rachel, can you hear us? Roger,
Hello?
Yeah, Roger can hear us.
can you hear us, Roger? I don't think so.
Can you hear me there?
But he's now muted,
Yeah, you can be.
so Rachel's muted.
Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you.
All right, so we're here to do a workshop that Dave just pointed out. We don't have to vote on anything, so we're discuss Maine LD 2003, Chapter 5 Housing Opportunity Program, Municipal Land Use and Zoning Ordinance Rule. All right, what are we gonna discuss? So I don't need to read through all this. Everybody's seen it, so where does it affect us? How does it affect us?
As of July 1st, it becomes effective.
Right.
So, the state will be the oversight until we get it implemented into our ordinance. But we basically have to follow the process. And one thing there was mention of whether or not there was an exclusion for town size.
Yes, I saw that question raised
Yeah,
to
and it hasn't been decided. They're gonna have a, is it a workshop Friday, final legislative workshop to
Okay.
discuss, but then it'll probably have to go from committee to legislature,
Yeah.
so the decision's not immediate, so I
Okay.
think it's.
So we have to get ready just in case.
At the same time, they'll also be deciding on pushing out the date that it must be implemented.
Pushing out the date,
Yeah,
like giving people a chance to.
yeah, right. I mean, a lot of towns are having the same problem. We are that, that what, having town meetings.
Is it possible that we could just do a blurb about, because we've got it in here in other places where we'll meet any other state ordinances or without looking one up. Is that something that we can just tack on to make this a whole lot easier than trying to change every single?
You can, for the ordinances that are affecting the change, yes, you could add a word to our existing ordinance saying this or the state regulation, whichever is. This or the state regulation will supersede
Yeah,
any of these. But we can be more restrictive, I believe, but we can't be less.
It's the other way
Yeah,
around.
It's the other way.
We could be more permissive. I've been going since 7 o'clock. Dealing with ordinances, but yeah, you can be more permissive, but you can't be more.
When we did the town centers ordinance, we worked for months and months and months.
yep,
Got language down and then sent it to the lawyer, and she determined where pieces were inserted into our land use ordinance.
right.
And that was beyond us and beyond you to know where that's appropriate, but she was able to cipher all that out.
Yeah. Because the way I understand this has to work is we have to figure out what has to get changed, what has to get added, taken out, what have you. Then it goes to the select board. And then it goes to the town lawyer.
Yep.
Why don't we just, oh, man.
And then it has to go to a town vote.
And yeah, it has to go to town vote.
And final rules have just been made,
Yeah.
a few days ago, so it's not like we could have started it sooner.
No. I know, and this whole thing has been, to me, gobbledygook. But to, even lawyers are questioning, scratching their heads and so. What's going on? So how do we proceed from here to do what we need to do?
Well, we could start with accessory dwelling units. I've just done that. And that actually seemed to be the easiest way to take their information.
Let's look at it.
And so I sent you a copy, or there's a copy in the, did you grab it from your,
I grabbed everything out of my box, so.
Yeah, are you talking about this one that you started?
yeah, it sort of looks like.
That one right there.
Yeah, so I took the ordinance and then I just threw in the stuff that they have indicated we need to change, and I thought I'd put that in, then we can talk about it. And decide whether or not it's appropriate, and hopefully Dave can give us a good idea
So we're,
of it.
the way, help me understand this without reading everything else is, everything is on italicized, something you added.
Yeah.
Now, the people out there have some of this too to look at?
There is also, so the minimum of hundred and 90 square feet, that could also change to that there is no minimum.
Is that what? or
That's
the-
up for discussion as
Are you
well.
kidding?
Yeah,
Well, I
because
think what we
there
did is-
have been ADUs that have been smaller.
Well,
Right,
that's why they suggested the tiny house ordinance too. And I don't know how you differentiate them. I guess we have one sort of, Rachel's
Yeah,
is a
well, we
tiny
have two.
house. We have two.
There's, George Burgess down
Oh,
there.
right, and so, whether we wanted, they recommended actually having a separate ordinance for tiny houses. No, I wasn't familiar with them, and I
Yeah.
don't know where,
some tiny houses are 8x16 trailer.
Yeah.
So 8 times 16 equals 128 square feet.
I don't know. Yeah, I didn't read up on our trailer.
Is it really
Has
necessary?
anybody seen any smaller than that? The 8x16 trailer?
No.
So it could actually, you said they could actually go to no minimum.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense to me.
So if I wanna build I mean, we could. If I wanted to do a 10x10, that'd be 100 square feet,
Oh, I don't have that, it's not in that package.
I haven't seen. And I wouldn't need a permit for it, cause it's under 120 square feet.
If you're gonna live in it, yes, you do.
Oh.
This is Alfred, this is Alfred,
only have the statement, okay.
and then the state one, I italicized, yeah.
I gotta get more for this, I don't have all that.
No, we just took the town ordinance and inserted where it looked like we would change it, the comments from their rules. So just going through for ease of our discussion instead of flipping pages.
I get it,
back
but
and
I'm
forth.
just, maybe I got I don't have the latest one. I downloaded the 2003 and I don't see any numbers like that. Is that a
The
new?
190. Oh, it's in the actual rules. Do you have a copy of the rules?
Rules from who?
This is what you need, rules.
Wendy, you started saying something, and I was interested in what you were gonna say, does it really matter, and then you didn't finish, and I wondered what
I
you
didn't-
meant. Wendy said, does it really matter, and she didn't get to finish, and I wondered what she was gonna say.
I
About
think
size.
we're talking about minimum
Yeah.
size for an ADU. So, we're allowed to be more permissive. And my initial feeling is, remove the minimum size. I mean, unless there's some reason. For safety reasons.
Well, if you change it to the 190 and they say that there is no minimum, then you have to go back and change ordinances
Right,
again.
and I think it might get changed.
Well, and the other thing is that they said the ADU has to meet wastewater code.
Yeah.
It has to have a bathroom, it has to have some sort of cooking facility. And so that's where they were saying, actually, in actual practice, 210 square feet would give you sufficient room to meet code. So I don't know from Dave's
And,
experience,
you
I
know,
mean, maybe.
one thing that is not going to change
Uh-huh,
are the subsurface wastewater.
Right,
No matter what, whether you have the square footage of an allowable house or density or anything else, you've still got to be able to provide sufficient septic.
Yeah, that's never gonna
That's
change,
never gonna
and,
change.
and access to potable water.
Right.
uh-huh, uh-huh. Right, right.
Does that necessarily have to be married to a minimum size?
Not necessarily, no. But it could play into the density. Like if you've got an 1.5 acre lot and now all of a sudden you're allowed to put, say, 3 ADUs on there. Do you have enough septic capabilities on that lot?
And they're always gonna have to prove that.
right. And
Always.
each, I mean, the way I see it on this, it's still talking about bedrooms. And whether it's a 8 by 16 tiny house or smaller,
Mhm. I almost think-
it's gonna be at least one bedroom.
Right, and I think our ordinance states that the ADU has to have its own tank.
Yeah.
It can share the septic field.
Yeah.
Leach field, but the
Oh.
ADU has to have its
Yeah,
own,
yeah,
have to have its own tank.
yeah.
Sewage goes, it goes into, it comes out of the house, it settles.
The place where all the solid is supposed to stay.
Ah,
So it's just, our ordinance just has a maximum size.
which
We
is,
don't, 800 square feet, so we don't have a minimum size. So from your experience,
wait,
as long, it has, that's, Meek and Mouse, how does this set up? It's under the table, it's on page 3, item C, big C. Like the right, yeah,
Why is there a maximum size?
yeah,
that's in the ordinance. That's the,
maximum size maybe not exceed 8.
That was something,
So you can't even do a tiny house, you can't even do a 8 by 16. What did I say that
No,
was?
that's maximum, not
That's
a
the
minimum,
maximum.
but, I mean, is that because an ADU is, you know, before all this was thought of as a shed or whatever?
pretty much,
Okay,
yeah, mother-in-law
so,
apartment.
yeah, so we need to redefine, I guess,
Mhm.
you know. Either, you know, what we're here to talk about for ADUs or shed.
Right.
Something that can't be lived in.
but it also, an ADU can be in the building or attached to the building, so.
Yeah, it can be upstairs in the garage, it could be,
Yeah,
Yeah,
So how does it affect the holding tank thing if it's attached to the house?
As long as they have a big enough tank
For that number of people?
for that number of bedrooms,
Thank you.
yes. Yeah, if it's already attached to the house, then obviously they don't have to get another tank, just. But if it's another building, would give them.
I mean, if I've got the current 2003 here, there's no upper limit in Maine's LD 2003.
it's, the town of Islesboro. we're talking about.
Yeah, I'm just saying that, when I spoke to Speaker Fecto and their working committee, they were saying that this stuff was gonna supersede local ordinances.
Yeah, until.
So if there's no restriction in LD 2003,
That means it's
It's a-
open to
Yeah.
interpretation.
Yeah.
We can put our own maximum, and based on what we heard discussions on other items, they said it's silent. That was the staff said. If it's silent on this, you could,
Well, yeah, that's my question, is what controls in that case, because I was led to believe that the main statute was gonna override local ordinance.
yeah, but if it's silent, it has nothing to say about it.
I probably agree in that I think they're more worried about the minimum sizes than they are
Mhm.
but.
Yeah, big but.
Well, hopefully we'll have more guidance.
Yeah.
I did pass out, I don't know how many of the board have seen the guidance document they had put out. But, they kept saying that they were going to issue a new one or update, and they haven't yet, so we'll probably see updates.
Oh, yeah.
So do you just wanna go through the different items and then I guess we can circle back
We
to,
gotta do something,
yeah,
figure out what we're gonna do, so.
And so we said in our ordinance that it can be a separate unit with an existing home, in addition to a home or separate structure, so we don't have to add anything.
Mhm.
And then. Oh, we have to, one thing, under item 1, number 2, on page 2. For lots located in the rural protection district, an ADU must comply with the requirements of section 125-33, minimum lot size in all districts. And that will have to be looked at, and that section will have to be possibly modified. And I sort of that one. Not quite sure how, but yes, we have to modify, our descriptions of. The minimum lot size cannot go any lower than 20,000 square feet, but based on state law. So that must be why the town centers didn't go below 20,000.
Right.
And they said, so that they said that a municipality must exempt an ADU from density and lot area requirements. So that means we don't, and we currently do require additional lot.
You look at, you look at that, yeah, you look at the density percentage right now,
Yeah,
it's, which is. Town center district, you can cover up to 70% of your lot. Rural district, which you have a bigger lot, you can only cover 20%. But with this new legislation, they're saying that the ADU, you can't hold an ADU to that density thing. It wouldn't count towards your lot coverage. Density.
I mean, but, so as far as density goes, so say, you know, like where I live, you have to have a minimum lot size of 1.5 acres, right?
Right.
If you want to add an ADU, that's a separate structure,
Mhm.
right? You can mandate that you have at least 3 acres, 1.5 for each.
no,
But you
that-
can't say that that second structure requires more than the minimum for the
Well, that's
first
for
lot.
that's for the other section, the building density, that's what you're saying, but for ADUs, you can't require additional acreage for an ADU, which we have. Right. We can't.
Hmm.
The whole point is to get more housing in the amount of land that we have, so that we have housing for people, so they're not requiring more land, they're trying to find a way to get more housing in the state of Maine for regular people.
Yeah, I understand.
So it's not about lot size.
What's is the? You've been reading all this over. Does the state ordinance or the state regulation on the ADU or the proposed change that they're making to ADUs? That, because I know with our ordinance, town ordinance, we have that thing in there requiring the covenant.
Right,
Is that a state thing?
no, well, I don't know where that came from, but actually somebody pointed out, I asked them, can we still require that the homeowner would be in residence in the house, and obviously I think then have a covenant. And they said that may go against the fair housing.
That's what I was
And
thinking. We may have
that
to
we may
do
have to
away with
consider,
that.
yes, yes.
just for those of you that, right, currently on our ADU policy, the town's ADU policy, we have the owner have a covenant, a legal covenant saying that the owner of record of the property has to either reside in the main residence or the ADU. And that covenant has to go, if they sell it, that covenant has to go along with the new buyer and everything else.
I have a question about surrounding that, which was, I attended both the public comment and the, House Select Committee on this issue, but I was only focused on the affordable housing section of it. So my question, is that, as for ADUs, I advocated that an affordable housing, you know, 501c3 affordable housing initiative qualify as the resident so that we could get ADUs on IAP properties. And that committee said that that was the intent of this proposal. So, and if you read the density section, there's carve outs for affordable housing, but I don't really see a carve out for ADUs in that sense. But that was when I was in part of those discussions, that was something.
They can be anywhere. They're being allowed anywhere.
But I'm
Well,
specifically
smaller
talking about what
zones.
you just said,
District.
which is that the primary resident has to be in one of those two units.
Right, and that's what we're just talking about, is that they made the comment that may ultimately have to go to court. Somebody could sue us at this point for having that requirement. And that it may be a good idea to drop it.
It kind of falls into that gray area of fair housing.
I'm just offering in the information that I got months ago when this select. It was a committee to try and draft these ordinances or this law. And the intent back then, months ago, who knows what's happened in the interim, was that be dropped. At least for affordable housing initiative, because that's what I was advocating.
If I'm understanding you, I think, maybe my pizza's kicking in. IAP owns this properties, but people are living in these properties. And by the rule that we were just talking about, IAP would have to reside in any of those. In each and every one of those.
Excuse me.
In order to build an ADU.
If you,
In order to build an
if you
ADU.
back up probably a year or more, I went to Janet and asked her if, like, let's say one of these Ruby Road houses we have back here. They're on an 1.5 acre lot. There's a house on each one of them. And I went and said, can IAP put an ADU on either one of those lots? And she goes, I don't know, let's ask the lawyer. He goes up the chain, comes back down the chain, no, you can't. That was the answer. Okay, so when I had the opportunity to speak to these people from the state, I advocated that, you know, I wasn't advocating for like carte blanche, anybody could do it at the time. I was advocating for a designated nonprofit organization to be allowed to put an ADU on a piece of property. And during that discussion, I was led to believe that that was going to be the intent of this new law. But if you look under the density requirements, they have specific carve outs for affordable housing initiatives, but they do not have a specific carve out for that under ADU. That's all I'm saying.
I think that the issue is whether or not the town planning board, code enforcement is gonna allow 2 houses on 1 lot. And there's a minimum lot size that the town has that happens to be 1.5 acres for rural development or whatever that, you know, catch-all phrase is, but the larger part of the island. And I believe that there is a minimum lot size required also there, which is, I think 60,000 square feet, which is roughly 1.5 acres. It's kind of the same as what we have. What's different about this is it says I could build 2 houses on my lot, 2 separate houses, as long as there's enough space. And as long as, you know, there's only 1 driveway that comes in and so forth. So an affordable housing lot could have 2 houses on it. if there's enough space,
And,
Right.
and if it conforms with the other
Yeah.
setback requirements and so forth.
Then we
That's
have-
what's really important about this.
Right, and that's a separate section that discusses housing density. And that actually requires that the additional house has to have at least the acreage required for the first house. So if we have a acre and a 3 acre lot for a little over, it could have 2 houses on it.
Well, you have to be careful whether you're talking, he was talking affordable housing. If you're talking affordable housing, that's not,
Well, I'm not
okay.
getting into.
I mean, I'm just saying, if you have to be
Well, we
specific
have
about what
three,
you're
I'm
talking about.
sorry, maybe we should go back. There are 3 sections to this law, the rules. What is it? Affordable housing density, dwelling unit allowance, and then accessory dwelling units. We thought we'd start with accessory dwelling units because it's kind of the easiest. And it's actually condensed into one section of the ordinance. The affordable housing is like, I don't even know.
Well, yeah.
Again,
Well,
and so we don't have entities, so we're focusing on what we can achieve right now. And we can get to the attorney, and then we can also do the accessory, building densities. I don't know how to, yeah, we'll have to discuss how to proceed with affordable housing.
Well, I've read the book, I mean, numerous times, I can't quote it verse for verse, but I'm pretty sure we don't have any specific ordinances on the books for affordable housing.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I wanna ask a clarifying question here. No, it says, I'm on ADUs now, so I'm trying to stay on the same subject.
Yeah,
It says, a municipality shall,
where are you?
I'm on LD 2003, section 4364-D, so auxiliary dwelling units.
LB 2000.
4364-D.
and you're in section 4, item D.
No, that's, well, unless on the thing that I downloaded, it's under section 4364, tag D, auxiliary dwelling units, bullet number 1, use permitted.
Well, under the rules, which is actually, if you go in, we gave you a copy of the rules. And that's,
You started reading, excuse me, you started reading, the municipality must allow effective July 1, 2023, is that how you started your sentence?
What, I haven't read what she gave me earlier, but what I'm reading is on what I downloaded off the main.gov website.
is that the law?
Yeah, this is the law,
Yeah,
okay?
so we're working off the rules, not the law. But you're saying, so the rules, I think they're a little worded differently. They tried to take what was in the law.
Okay, I'll just be quiet till I read the rules and see if I agree with what's going on here, because I just got the rules, I haven't checked through.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
No, I'm not here to disrupt, I'm here to understand.
Yeah.
Welcome to the club,
Yeah.
and I got a thick head.
Well, the other thing is we wanted to see if the attorney was available to at least give us oversight or guidance. And they weren't available today, but if we could give them some dates, they can come in and talk. Also, the staff from the Department of Economic Community Development are willing to attend one of our meetings and answer questions. So if you don't have time to attend one of their informational meetings, which, actually happened this morning at 11. They had information, oh, no, they didn't. This is the one day they didn't have it. Every Tuesday from now on, starting at 11, they are having informational meetings.
Q&A.
Yeah, the Q question and answer. So
What's the organization again?
Department of
Economic.
Department of Economic Community Development. We have that, flyer we can print out for you.
This one right here.
Yeah,
Yeah, and there isn't one for today. There is one for May 9.
and is it 11 o'clock?
It is 10 a.m. to 11
Okay.
a.m.
And so
And they're
those were
all-
really helpful. You could, there were Zooms and you could ask questions.
And they're all recorded. So, if you wanna go back and watch
Right.
them, they're helpful.
The first ones are not as helpful because they didn't have the rules. So.
Sure.
You know. So I think basically looking at our ordinance where we have minimum lot size and frontage requirements, I think we just eliminate all that. It's not pertinent to the changes we have to make. And so we have to have the same setbacks as the house, it's a single family.
Still have to have you 15 foot from you.
Oh, and that's right, shoreline zoning, floodplain,
All that is not changing.
they are not changed, so we have to. follow those. So we can't have to abide by the rules, current rules for those. Oh, and they do have parking. Did I put a note in the parking? They do say an ADU, oh no, that's us. An ADU shall not have more than 2 bedrooms. And we said permitted for resident, oh, only one, no. So, I don't know how you want to keep following it. You'll-
I am not following a whole lot, to be honest with you right now. My head's about to explode with all the gobbledygook that I'm hearing. Cause I don't understand it. I know how to build houses, I know how to do a lot of things, but when it comes to all this legal gobbledygook, that's why I was hoping that we could come up with something that says we're gonna, something instead of changing a whole bunch of things, just be able to put.
Mhm. Well, I think this is the easiest part of the ordinance, cleaning. Yeah.
What was it
Yeah.
you said that was gonna be eliminated from our language? From the ordinance,
Oh,
Having someone live in the unit.
just that, okay.
right, and also, the minimum lot size requirements that are listed. They're on, oh, it's confusing, maybe it's something numbered.
Right, could I ask a question?
Please.
Thanks for writing all this out and doing all this specific stuff.
Mm-hmm,
Thank you. It's work.
mm-hmm.
But for me, I'm wondering why it can't be as simple as we will adopt the states and skip it all and then whichever supersedes, and then it's not like having hours of conversation about language when we just take what the state does and it's keeping it simple and the state has its system already.
That's kind of what Chuck is.
Yeah, that's
I'm not the person that wants to reinvent state language and go to lawyers and have to spend months and months. If we can use the state and have the lawyer draw up something that includes the state's new rules, it's simple. And then if somebody wants to contest it, they can talk to the town lawyer or not, and we know it's all in there, the way that the attorneys put it, and it's done. It's not a big deal. Am I making that up? No, okay.
I hope not.
I'm
that
just
makes-
talking out loud, I may be wrong.
Yeah,
And,
I think you're right.
oh,
It's just a question of how much you want the town to have a say in it.
right, but that takes people with full-time jobs to make all that up, and the state has done a lot of
The
research.
town centers will pull together the town center ordinance.
Yep, I'm just saying, that's the truth too.
Yeah.
But for me, I think the benefit of keeping it simple outweighs that, and if something comes up, we can address it in the future, but I don't know.
The more information we have in the ordinance, it's easier for us to say yes, no. Honestly, from my perspective.
Well, I am, as we've seen in the past with, difficult, if I may say, difficult applications, be chapter and verse. You know, any pros or cons be chapter and verse, so.
Yeah. I mean,
I mean, there a lot of work went into this already. The town has spent a lot of time.
Yeah.
And I think there were probably volunteers who did this, who put together the ordinance, using probably state templates.
Yeah.
And adding stuff, so we're just adding.
Can you hear, hello, can you hear me?
Can hear you.
You can. This is Roger Burke. I've been on my iPhone, which is a very cumbersome way to take part in this conversation. But my reaction to the suggestion that we simply accept the state ordinance is that's fine. But before we do accept it, we'd better understand it. The planning board is obligated to understand it. So all of this discussion is relevant, even if we don't change, even if we don't have exceptions in our own bylaw. But for the next however long we've got to discuss this, we better understand it very well. So a lot of these questions which could be answered by the state, we better ourselves understand.
Agreed.
But also enforce.
Toward that end, trying to understand the big ball wax here, even though, as you said, Jennifer, we started with auxiliary dwelling units, but if we go back to page 7 of this.
Which, page 7 of which.
Yeah, that you handed out today.
That's explained.
We're talking about dwelling unit one. This isn't auxiliary dwelling unit, this is dwelling unit.
Yeah, that's separate section.
If you look at requirements, it goes on, it says, one, if a lot does not contain an existing dwelling unit, municipalities must allow up to 4 dwelling units per lot.
If the lot is big enough.
And that's only if it's got public sewer and that sort of stuff.
Right,
So that's quite limited to Dark Harbor. But if you go down to B, it says if a lot does not contain existing dwelling unit and does not meet 1 or 2 above the public sewage and whatnot, the municipality must allow up to 2 dwelling units per lot. So,
Provided the area, they meet the minimum lot size for each dwelling unit.
well, I
Where does it say that?
mean that if the
You
lot,
have to keep reading.
It says
It's-
provided that the requirements in 12
Yeah, it's-
MRSCH.
It's a typical ordinance. You have to then go
right,
into it to go back to where
Right.
you are.
but if that lot has been established and meets our past requirements for a lot, acre and a half in the rural
It can
protection.
have a house, a second house on it, according to this.
You could have 2 houses there.
No,
I don't see how it says that.
I was hoping we wouldn't get into this one today, but this
I
is
mean-
one where we could just throw in this ordinance into
Ah.
our package
Uh-huh.
and say, planning board, you're gonna have to figure this one out.
I think Jennifer's right. You probably should stick to one of these things at a time because they're all very
They're-
different.
Okay.
So I
We
mean,
can back off a
I'd
little
have to
bit.
go back and look where, it's the dimensional requirements. That a municipal ordinance may not establish dimensional requirements or setback requirements for dwelling units allowed pursuant to this section that are more restrictive than the dimensional requirements or setback requirements for single-family housing units. Dimensional requirements are defined defined here as well as in our ordinance as including lot area. They include setbacks in lot area. Yeah,
Jennifer, setbacks and what?
lot area.
Like acreage.
I kept wondering, does this include yeah, you have to keep going back and try to figure out, do they define the term? And then you find, oh, they define it. So, yeah, I think we'll go back to the ADUs at first and then we can figure out, but yeah, it's very complicated, and you're right, particularly affordable housing, dwelling unit allowance, we could maybe just throw it into the ordinance and say affordable housing. I'm totally baffled on how we're supposed to apply that.
Is there something specific you want to change in the ADU, which is why you wrote it out differently, separately from the state?
Oh, those, I took this Town of Islesboro's ordinance, and then I inserted into the document where it looked like we were gonna have to make changes to comply with the rules. So if you happen to have one of our copies, we could hand them out. I don't know if we have extra copies. They were town-sized.
So you're not changing anything from the state, you're just putting new wording
Into the town ordinance.
So why doesn't it work to just say we'll adopt the state and not write it into our ordinance, and it will already be covered? Why do we have to change all the wording? We can just say we change.
Haven't decided, this is a decision. Are we
Just
going to
understanding how the thinking is. I thought you wanted to change some things.
That was the approach I was taking.
Yeah.
Others are saying maybe we should dump this section of our ordinance.
It just-
And just
and
put
just
in-
adopt the state.
I'm starting to feel like
Without
Bill
the state.
Shop here for a minute now.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm sorry?
I'm starting to feel like you with, the gotchas in here, but.
Sorry, I apologize.
No,
did my homework.
I think you are approaching this correctly. Pick one of these topics and work on it, because there are 3 separate issues here,
Mhm,
and they're all completely governed differently.
yeah.
And I think you're gonna I know I'm getting confused by jumping back and forth, and I'm probably the instigator of that, but you were talking about ADUs, not affordable housing ADUs, but just ADUs. Well, if you don't have, in my view, and I don't know if you can have based on Maine state law, but if you don't have an upper limit on the size of an ADU, then somebody could come in and put the same size house on the thing and call it an ADU. You see what I'm saying? And that gets around that whole other thing you were just talking about.
So that's why you have to have maximum size, and that's why we have a maximum size. Yeah, that's a good point.
It would still have to have wastewater. big
Sure,
enough
but
for
even
it.
any size, any of those things have those same requirements. I'm just saying that we just heard that under the one that shall not be mentioned, that you would need an acre and a half for each housing under the dwelling ordinances. But if I call it an ADU, I can put 2 houses on an acre and a half as long as I've got the septic and water.
No, but there's more than that. There are controls on the ADU, and one is construction or purchase price, because you have to rent it at an affordable rental or sell it at an affordable price, which is something around, I don't remember the exact numbers in the state, but it's a percentage of
120, yeah.
state.
Yeah, but that's
So
affordable housing.
if somebody wants to
so-
build a,
Right, so.
You're off the preservation. again.
Yeah, yeah. Mhm. You can have an ADU and have it not be affordable housing.
Yes, you can.
I don't think so.
Yes,
You can.
yes,
Yeah, you can.
yes, yes,
Separate,
According to state
They're
regs,
separate.
yes. These new rules.
yes.
There's
yes.
there's a whole separate section that deals with affordable housing.
I'm just suggesting that as part of the discussion, you should consider limiting the size, or else somebody's gonna do just what I just did, said, I'm gonna build my 1,500 square foot ADU over here next to my house.
Right,
That's why we have it.
and we have a
Brilliant. There's a
maximum
reason
size.
why it was put in here. Yeah.
We have a maximum size on our ADU on ours.
But what I was, where I was going with, pointing out that it would still have to have, wastewater to support it, right, the second structure. If the lot's not big enough, you can never subdivide it. So you've got a property with 2 houses on it, and you always have to sell it like that, you know? So. Right?
Yes, we
I
do.
mean, is
Yeah,
that,
we wanna have it that way.
you know, if you wanna put on, you know. That's the thing about
But
ADUs,
we
is
could
if the
also-
lot's not, if your property's not big enough, you know, you're never gonna be able to just carve off a piece and.
That's true.
Sell it with
That's
that
true.
ADU.
An ADU of any size.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
So. So we do have multifamily dwellings within our ordinance.
We do, I don't think we have any, but. I mean, but we do have the language.
Yes, we have the language. for it. And it is under. And you can't have more than, once you hit 3 houses, you have to have a subdivision. So even if you're trying to squeeze 3 houses into a 1/2 acre, 1.5 acre lot, I think that would be unadvisable based on wastewater. I don't know. I think this is where we come to a vote and decide whether or not.
Except
we
we're not
want-
supposed to be voting on that.
Oh, I know, I
Yeah.
wasn't going to, something
Oh.
we postponed.
Oh,
And we have another, we probably need to list all these wonderful issues that, are we going to just accept the whole
right.
enchilada? Want to have a maximum size.
And not a minimum size.
It's a good question for that group meeting on the 10 o'clock meeting. What repercussions if you wanted to get a large ADU and make it like a house size? I think that's a good question. For
I
that
think
meeting.
they'd say it would depend on your ordinance.
I'm gonna ask.
We're allowed to be more permissible.
That's what it says there. That's what it says there, is more permissive for an ADU. We just can't make it harder, is that correct?
We have to remember too, in terms of all water supply here on the island. that
You're
we
talking
have
about-
to-
There's that, yeah. I mean, how much can Dark Harbor handle in additional wastewater?
Right, that's a big
That's
question.
potable water too,
Yeah.
people's wells going to.
But what you were talking about was the single source aquifer that we have, is that correct?
Yeah,
And where do you draw the line, when do you draw the line? To say, no, we can't allow any more building, we can't have any more
we have
wells
at this
drilled.
point. Yeah,
I mean, that's beyond our purview, I
Right.
believe.
right. I know that the groundwater committee's been monitoring wells and definitely there's certain wells.
Right, and then what happens to those people that have properties that want to build eventually, and now all of a sudden they get told you can't do it, your land is useless because you can't put a house on it.
We have a public hearing and talk about whether we. It's
But
just,
we've got off of the ADU whole thing again, you know? so-
no, I was just saying that that's something in terms of increasing density.
Yeah,
The issues you're gonna have is water and sewage.
Yeah.
There are some really great, devices that pull water right out of the air that make it drinkable.
Kind of playing, if I can, I just want
Please.
to play devil's advocate slightly. Is it and I could be very, very wrong on this. Does the planning board issue permits for wells for new properties?
No.
So that's not your guys' purview?
No.
Do you guys, but you make sure that there is adequate space and land for the wastewater? Right?
And that there's a distance between the well and the wastewater.
So is there anything
and the
that the
house.
planning board has that you would be able to tell a group of 5 developers that come in that are building these? And let's say that there is something that has came up, that the aquifer is low or anything like that. Is there anything that permits the planning board to tell them, no, we will not issue these?
Going back to your first question, Dave, answer it. Does somebody have to come and get a permit to drill a well?
No,
They do not.
no. As of right now, there is no ordinance saying that you have to have a permit to drill a well.
Okay, so then that's kind of going out into it's a very valid and it is a very concernable thought to keep in mind. But if it's not something that you guys have the authority over, if you go too deep in the weeds on it, then it's an energy, like a personal energy waste. And I'm not trying to say, don't think about it, but if you don't have a repercussion for it, if you can't stop them from doing it based upon this.
Yeah, the only way is through setback.
Yeah, if something doesn't meet the setbacks or something like that,
Right,
then the planning board can
right,
step in and say, no, sorry, but
right. But if you can't do anything about the aquifer, or about the waters or anything like
I'm
that.
not sure that you can't under current law, but the LD 2003. Again, I don't know how this marries up with what all you've got in front of you, but reading from section 3 of the LD 2003, it says, for any municipality or government entity to restrict the construction or development of housing accommodations in any area based on criteria that refers to the character of a location, the overcrowding of the land, or undue concentration of the population. For purposes of this subsection, the following terms have the following meanings. A, character of a location means the unique characteristics of a municipality or specific area within a municipality or other political subdivision. We only got one source of water. That to me is a unique situation. I think you could maybe exercise that section to control.
Is this the ordinance, the statute? It's the statute,
This is
yeah, the statute.
section.
And so they don't necessarily have the same wording here. So we could potentially take that. Where was it?
Oh,
You know, it's just interesting.
I'm just saying, if you're looking for an avenue to try at least to restrict well drilling, you might try and use that one. Rabbits.
How do you want to take me away?
This section. Right.
Sounds good. We'll have a party.
Let's see if I can figure out. That's like, this is like age 1.
So why don't I look for it?
All right.
Yeah, we'll talk later. Sorry. This is so. So has anybody looked at any of the other items that we have?
I've been trying to.
We do ask that, we allow one off-street parking space shall be provided or as many spaces deemed necessary by the CEO to accommodate the actual number of vehicles used by occupants of both the primary residence and the ADU. And the rules say an accessory dwelling unit may not be subject to any additional motor vehicle parking requirements beyond the parking requirements of the single-family dwelling unit on the lot where the accessory dwelling unit is
So as long as there's enough parking.
for one house.
Yeah, for the primary structure.
and I
Can't
believe
require more.
our ordinance states that you can't, for an ADU, you can't build another driveway. It has to use the same.
Same driveway,
same
but you can
driveway,
still have
but you can
additional
still have
parking.
this. Yes.
So, but we do say that they should have at least a number of spaces that you need. I don't know if we can keep that language in here or not.
I can, in the 2 years that I've been doing this, it's never come up and
Well, we've only got two
I've never had to
ADUs.
say, oh, you need this many parking.
Right.
But that could come up in Dark Harbor.
You just gotta be able to park as, what, 4 vehicles, 1 per, whatever. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know what the rule is.
Yeah, I don't
But we
know if
can't
there's
have
a-
any language requiring more parking for ADUs.
No,
That's specifically forbidden.
yeah. All right. And we can't have, and we say there shall be no on-street parking associated with an ADU, and we can't say that.
Might not be able to say it, but there ain't a whole lot of places on this island where you can do on-street parking.
Hmm,
And so it's in the last one is the covenant. Well, how do you want to approach this? Just come back to it, we can ask questions to the attorney and to the.
I'd like to hand the whole thing off to the attorneys, to be honest with you.
Mhm.
But they don't seem to understand it any better than we do.
No, they don't.
Yeah. Well, we certainly can ask them about the affordable housing. And we just have you guys
Well,
throw the whole section of affordable housing.
now we're going to affordable housing now, or?
That, I mean, you're just saying that you wanna throw everything in.
Well, that's not too, I mean, I'm telling you, I'm a simple guy and understand simple things most of the time.
Yeah, I don't know how clear they are.
It has a minimum size.
That's the worry.
They say you could.
Uh-huh.
Some of
It's our ordinances.
Larger,
These,
along with everything else that applies.
well, we can ask Hannah, how about
That's what they.
attorney, right?
I have a question, if you're gonna ask the attorney one, I got one for her, which is, I'm here specifically trying to figure out what I can do with
Sure,
IAB here, okay? So this is gonna be an affordable housing density question. If you look into the law, I won't give you the alphanumeric because it doesn't marry up with anything you've got in front of you, but it says under affordable housing density. Density requirements, the municipality shall allow an affordable housing development to have a dwelling unit density of at least 2.5 times the density that is otherwise allowed in the zone where the affordable housing development is located. My question is, we have 1.5 acres anywhere outside of town centers. Does that mean that if you take 1.5 acres and divide it by 2.5, I can ask Tom Tudor, but he's gonna come up with 0.6 acres. Does that mean that you can put an affordable housing unit on every 0.6 acres of affordable housing
Well,
property?
they're saying it has to comply with the minimum lot size requirements in accordance with Title 12. And I looked that up, and that's the minimum lot size statute, which requires 20,000 square feet.
For affordable housing.
No, it's, well, this is under, the rules for affordable housing. It's under.
I can get the same information you're working with, because that's not what this says.
No, I know, they've taken it further from yours.
So 20,000 square feet, so that's less than,
That's
six-
right.
that's less than 6/10 of an acre. That's like
That's the
5.55 acres. So,
But for a developer to take advantage of that bonus, right? They have to declare more than 50% of those units as affordable housing.
well, I'm here specifically trying to find out what's what for IAP, and all of ours are. So that, what I'm reading here is that I can build a house on every 20,000 square feet of IAP plot property. Is that an incorrect or a correct statement?
Well, they're
I
saying,
can't tell you one way
they're
or the
saying
other.
that
That's why I have a voice.
it has to be in a designated growth area or served by a public special district or other centrally managed water system. Or other comparable, are
Well,
they
it's
all
got-
on separate?
I'll have to read what you got, because that's not what the law that I'm reading says, so I have to read through that.
I wonder if one large septic field to service
You know, like
all
the
these
association.
Well, that's what's
would
happening
be
down.
considered central. You know?
That's what happens down in Dark Harbor, one large septic system that services many.
Well, I think that we need to look through this and then get on their called on Tuesday.
Okay, which one of these, are you using the rules one that? Is that
Yeah,
what you're getting at?
rules.
Okay, I gotta read it, cause I hadn't seen this before.
Yeah, and, so the IAP is not a special district.
Folks, we've been here for an hour and I'm still scratching my head, so forgive me for that.
Well, what we could do is next time, we wanna have, see if we can get the attorney.
Oh, we tried this time, but they were unavailable. So.
Right. We can ask them about just inserting the language.
Yeah, am I the only one on the board that is like they're gonna explode or something, or?
No.
I'm not the sharpest tool in, yeah.
Oh, Gil, what do you think?
I'm listening to all of it. I don't,
Yeah. Have you been involved in any of the ordinance changes?
throughout the whole,
Well, since you've been on
I've
the
been here
board?
for years, so.
Yeah.
But I personally don't like the idea of putting something in there that says, that's, you know, if it's not in our ordinance, you go to the state. You know, I think we should just do our own thing.
We've got that in other
Yeah.
places where it's.
Right, we do have that
As
in
long
some
as it
places,
complies
but
with.
some places you need it, some you don't.
Well, you'll have to point out, I think it's shoreline zoning, it's floodplain.
Yeah, we can easily use those languages.
I mean, Bill, if it'd be easier, we could have a smaller group work on this.
Like a
And,
committee or something,
Yeah,
Subcommittee.
yeah,
I'll not be on it.
yeah. I was thinking, maybe that would be. And then you can grill us and go, what were you thinking? Uh-huh.
Oh, man.
Would you like a chocolate chip cookie?
No, that's all right. It's okay. I'm not ready, I'm not quite ready for the rubber room yet.
Well, shall we see about trying to get some help from those
Absolutely.
folks?
Absolutely, because,
And we could set up a subcommittee
sure,
with Isabel getting back. Roger, who looks like he's asleep.
right.
Are you there, Roger?
He's there.
Yeah, I'm here. I've been here all along. It's just
Would
difficult,
you be
you know,
interested in
without,
being on a subcommittee to talk about this?
yeah, I would be part of that. And I think that's a good idea. And then I think that subcommittee should then be talking to experts like lawyers, et cetera. But we've really got to get so that the planning board understands all of the parts of this that we don't understand at the moment. And I think a working subcommittee is always a good way to get to the bottom of these things.
Yeah, yeah.
I agree.
So let it be written, so let it be done, right?
All right then.
Any volunteers?
Well, I'll help.
I'm
sure
willing,
Is-
I'm back now. I'm willing to work on that.
Wendy, do you want to?
Oh, yeah, I've spent a lot of time trying to wrap my head around this stuff, and
Like it should.
it's still very confusing, so.
Yeah.
But yes. Definitely.
Okay, we gotta start.
Unfortunately.
Yes.
After you establish your subcommittee, something I would like to suggest, and because some of the issues don't get brought up until you hear other aspects of it, like affordable property. To combine your subcommittee report or your subcommittee for this with one of the housing committee meetings also.
Absolutely.
And so that way, because we have Rick that's part of the housing committee, Tom, myself, there's a
Yep.
group of us, that way. The questions that we can foresee that are coming, which have been raised
Right.
frequently
Right.
right now. Can be done in a different forum, that way, and then go back to the lawyers with that.
Mhm.
And so if you keep that in mind, I'd appreciate that.
Okay.
That's good. I agree. I agree with that.
One.
Okay. So we've accomplished nothing else, we've accomplished that,
We created more bureau.
I know. And, oh,
But that's, I would say that's fairly normal in this process, but it's a process that we have to go through.
now, I better keep my mouth shut.
Oh, and Dave, maybe you could attend a couple of these if you have time.
I'm more than happy to. I can give you my input on what my interpretation of the current ordinances
Yep.
is. Ultimately, at the end of the day, I'm gonna enforce whatever you guys put on the books.
Well,
So,
we-
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it won't go on the books until it goes to the town anyway, right?
So Jen, could you chair that subcommittee?
I knew that was gonna change.
Yes, I think so, yeah.
Just get you in, it'll just get you in, preparation for taking the CEO, I mean, taking the, chair off of here, so.
What?
No,
Okay,
You're so good at it.
I'm not good at it.
I vote for you.
All right, so what, are you ready to, I mean, we don't have to vote, so are we done,
Yeah,
or
you better
can we
start.
walk away from this with what we got going on?
We gotta set up the next meeting.
May I make one more comment that
Please.
when you do get around to actually implementing a change in the ordinance, having gone through the town centers, just be sure you check with Janet. There are certain deadlines and requirements about informational meetings, how many
Right.
days in advance.
Right,
It's a laborious process. It's multi-steps.
I understand. That's why when we decided to do this one, we made sure that we gave the 7-day notice and everything else.
Did you present to the select board as well?
Yes.
Or-
Mm,
I can't remember if you did.
I don't recall.
Yeah,
I think that's, in my interpretation, that's the way it works. The planning board suggests the ordinance.
oh,
Yeah.
They present it to the
Yep.
select board.
That's right.
Select board sends it to the
That's
attorney,
right, David.
and then it goes to the vote.
oh, okay.
Yeah. Right, that's it.
We leave.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can leave.
All right, well, thank you, everybody. I'm sorry they're so disorganized.
Where's the
Ah.
dog?
It was helpful no matter what. I mean, it really.
Yeah, first step.
They have a recycler.
If you look on their website, the Department of Economic Community Development's website for housing, they'll have this information and hopefully an updated guidance.
I have a PhD in all this stuff. Push here, dummy.
Are we setting another date?
That's all right.
This whole document, you made this?
Yeah.
And where did this information come from? All town.
It's up to the committee with
Rules, what rules
This
of
is
the
the
town?
part 3A accessory dwelling units.
Might want to put it on the agenda for Monday night.
Okay.
And then
Put it
they
up-
insert
You might want to, on the agenda for Monday night's business meeting.
Time
Establish the
sheet. I've
subcommittee
never heard of that.
Okay.
with this.
Okay,
Officially.
Like one
That doesn't use, then this is, you can go.
I would keep it simple, just do one committee and tackle one thing. at a
One
time.
thing at a time.
Download, they should be eventually.
we already established the committee, it's the Jan and Wendy.
Right, if you gotta do it
But,
officially, at a business meeting. This isn't a business.
No.
They can give you the.
So we can do it officially on Monday, whatever Monday we have.
Yeah.
I came over to. I should know what it is, but I can.
Yeah.
It's an issue with
So I can send it.
in the housing section.
What time?
Says-
Because of how much we don't.
And it's-
Some of you know, you know, people that you know, go over there.